fans, wherever you may be. Welcome back for another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. Join your host, Bill Alvstad, and co-host, sports writer and football analyst Keith Myers, as we talk Seahawks football. Hey, Seahawk fans. Welcome back to another edition of the Seahawks Playbook podcast. I'm your host, Bill Alvstad, sitting down with co-host Keith Myers. We're here to preview Game 3 of the regular season, Falcons at the Seahawks this Sunday. Welcome in, Keith. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Let's get ready for a winnable game this week. I think that the Seahawks really have a chance against the Falcons.
Yeah, this is the one we scheduled on early in the season. That would be a win for the Seahawks. Both of us in our prediction show had this, and I'm in the toss-up category now after seeing the performances in week 1 and week 2, especially since it's been 6 quarters since the offense has scored any points. I'm hopeful, however, that we can turn things around and put it all together in this game, and I think that's really the key. Is putting it all together. We've seen little bits and pieces here and there. Some of the defense has been kind of lacking, if you will, as far as being able to stop the run. We've been okay defending the pass some of the time, but we haven't been able to get pressure consistently on quarterbacks. It'd be nice if we could put together a really nice defensive game plan and execution in this game, as well as kind of let the offense kind of just get out of its own way and run the ball effectively and let Geno pass the ball and kind of put it all together. And I'm wondering if you think that that's going to happen in this game.
I don't know. I mean, if you're going to do it, this is a team to do it against. I think that I'd like to see Seattle go out and actually execute and do some things, but I have my doubts that offensively they're going to get the job done. I think defensively they're going to. This is a game where they should play significantly better.
Yeah, no, I agree. But the scary proposition is that if they don't do it in this game, when do they do it?
Oh man.
If they miss against the Falcons, the Seahawks are at the Lions. That's another opportunity, but the Lions are an improving team. And then you look at the Saints, and then the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Giants are looking improved. We're back to the Cardinals. It could be a little while, Keith, before this team really has a chance to put a win on the board if they can't get it done this week.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, team's got to turn some corners this week. They've got to show that the first half against Denver wasn't, just because it was the first half of the season, and the Russell Wilson effect. They've got to show that they're more than that, and this is their chance. Come out, prove everybody wrong, show you that you're a competent team.
Yeah, I proved me wrong. I mean, I'm in front of my eyes, I'm turning skeptical, and I hate that because I want my team to be successful, but they need to show me. And there's a few different players that are expected to kind of take the next step that haven't so far yet. Our wide receiver group hasn't had a chance to really show and catch the ball. Tyler Lockett had a nice game. Other than that, everyone's just kind of been waiting around. Our running game is completely lacking. We've got one of the best potentially running games in the entire NFL with Rashad Penny and Ken Walker drafted in the 2nd round. The 2 other running backs in Dallas and Homer look good in preseason. So far, just really hasn't been there. And
so I got a stat for you since you're talking about the running game. The Seahawks are dead last in the NFL in rushing yards with 112.
Yeah. And it feels like it. It feels like it. It's
for a team that wants to run the ball like that. They want that to be their identity, where they run the ball, they're physical, all of that. They are dead last in rushing the football right now.
Yeah, that's not surprising to me. We haven't been able to sustain anything no conversions on third downs. Wouldn't be surprised if we're dead last in that category as well. As far as time of possession, we need to be near to the bottom on almost all of those critical categories. It would seem to me. I haven't looked them up. I don't know for sure, but it feels that way. Let's talk about Atlanta for a little bit. I know that we kind of want to focus on what the Seahawks need to do, but what kind of a team are we facing this Sunday? Atlanta comes in with a new quarterback this year. They shipped off Matt Ryan in a trade earlier in the offseason and brought in Marcus Mariota. They also drafted Desmond Ridder in the draft. I thought one of the more ready guys in the draft that might be able to come in and play right away. It's a good situation actually for him. Behind Mariota, a decent quarterback's been around. He's a consummate professional. It's a good place for Desmond Ridder to sit back, at least even for a half a season, to learn what the NFL is all about, and then come in and kind of see what they've got with him. Because I'm not sure after drafting Desmond Ridder, they go up to at the top of the draft next year and draft another guy. But they may. I mean, it might be just bad enough where they might have to do that.
Well, I mean, they clearly didn't think that Ridder was worth, that what he was a franchise quarterback, or you wouldn't have let every team have multiple shots at him before you select him. I think they didn't expect him to fall that.
Yes,
they didn't expect him to fall that far.
Same thing could have been said for Russell Wilson back in the day too. But I get it. No, you're right. And I think that the value placed on the quarterbacks in the draft was correct. And we're seeing too Trubisky starting over the kid from Pittsburgh that was drafted as well. So nobody's really coming out and well,
it's because that year's
playing right away.
Last year's quarterback class was not a good group of guys. So
yeah.
I mean, yeah. So look, we're looking at with this that the Falcons. What do they do well?
So far this year, they've run the ball really well. They're a pretty decent running team. They're number 10 overall in the NFL in rushing. They lead the league in turnovers. I think with 4 so far in 2 weeks. Their defensive line with Grady Jackson has the potential to be disruptive, especially against the Seahawks. And their defensive backs have picked off a couple of passes so far and have been pretty sticky in coverage. That's about it.
Yeah.
And I'm being generous. I'm obviously, I mean, this is an entertainment show. I'm trying to play along, but the Falcons are not a great team. In fact, they're probably one of the few teams that I could say are worse than the Seahawks currently, both in talent and record. Although the Falcons, I have to say, played 2 quality opponents really close, which gives me pause about predicting a win for the Seahawks in this one, because they fell to the Saints by 1 point, and they almost came back and clipped the Rams in the last outing, lost 27-31.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've played pretty well. I don't think that they are overly talented, if that makes sense. And
they were leading 26-10 in the fourth quarter against the Saints. I mean,
and then they lost.
And you predicted the Saints would win that division.
Yeah, I still think they will.
So I'm just saying they're hanging with some really good competition. And I can't say the same with the Seahawks now. I don't know what the Broncos are going to turn into this year, but it doesn't seem like they're on the same level as the Rams and the Saints.
Yeah, we'll see. We're 2 games in, but I will say that Marcus Mariota isn't making himself look like a very long-term solution there in Atlanta. He's only throwing for 7 yards per pass attempt. That's not going to get it done. In the NFL, it's better than Seattle, but that's also a low bar to get over. And I mean, he just hasn't shown me yet in this time through, as a starter after having a couple years as a backup, that he is going to be a guy that you can depend on. I mean, he completes 62% of his passes, but two touchdowns, two interceptions,
and those interceptions came at bad times.
Cost him a game.
Critical mistakes,
and he had a bad fumble in that first week.
Yep.
Like he can't be endearing himself to the coaches with these turnovers, and so I want Marcus to do well. I want him to come up and show that he's a good player. I think he has physically the potential to be. I thought he was great at Oregon, but he's just really not taking this opportunity and running with it like I'd hoped he would.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you said taking the opportunity and running with it. Cordell Patterson is having a great outing so far this year. He's bigger, he's stronger. They're using him in a more dynamic way and putting him in the backfield quite frequently as their feature running back. They drafted Tyler Algier out of BYU in the draft, who I think is a quality guy, kind of gives them a physicality that they've lacked. But Cordell Patterson is actually a lot more physical than you would think he is. Everyone kind of views him as some sort of gimmick guy and a gadget player and so forth, but he's got some stature to him, and he's been running the ball really well for them. That's something that Seattle has not been able to stop, is opponents' running game so far. And I'm not sure in this game if the Falcons would set out to run the ball, which I do believe that would be their game plan. Let's try to establish that. Seattle's got to find a way to get better edge play, I think, out of Taylor in particular, Nuwasu, obviously, and their linebackers, and figure out a way to disengage blocks and make tackles closer to the line of scrimmage. And that just hasn't been happening for Seattle.
Yeah, it's been a rough go for Seattle, and I don't know. I think Seattle's the more talented team in this game, and that's not just the homer in me saying that. I look at the individual players, and you match them up side by side. Atlanta doesn't have Seattle's receivers. Atlanta doesn't have Seattle's tight ends. I think even though they're really, really young and showing their lack of experience, I think Seattle's got the more talented offensive line. Right. And just go across. I mean, Grady Jackson's great, but he's how old? And who else, on that defense is really going to scare anybody? If you just kind of go through position by position, it does feel like Seattle's the better team. Well, I don't know if I can give Seattle the nod here as the team that's going to win this. I just don't.
I agree on some respects with as far as the roster is concerned. I think that so far their running game is better than ours for sure. It doesn't necessarily translate into individual players. I'm just saying their game is more effective. They drafted London Drake, happened to go one pick before Seattle drafted Charles Cross, number 8 overall in the draft. He was the first wide receiver taken. A lot of us were very surprised at that pick. However, London Drake has proved to be very good in his first 2 outings, and they're really counting on him to kind of really step up and be their number 1 wide receiver right out of the gate. And so far, he's been doing it. And then Kyle Pitts, their tight end, I think, Keith, is head and shoulders above either one of our tight ends.
He's not really a tight end; he's a receiver. But okay, they list him as a tight end. I'll give you that.
And then on the offensive line, Keith, Jermaine Ifedi is their backup right tackle. I mean, come on, Keith.
Yes, which automatically means I want to throw up. I hope whoever is the right tackle. I wish you
Caleb McCary.
That's right. I wish you perfect health this Sunday so that I don't have to be subjected to watching Jermaine Ifedi try and play football.
It'd be fun to watch Jermaine Ifedi go against this defense. I think, he would have some false starts because it is in Seattle. And Yeah, that might turn out well for the Seahawks. On defense,
it would turn out well for Seattle, but it would still be painful for me to watch him try and play football. Like, even if he's on the opponent's team, watching him attempt to block people just hurts. It just hurts me.
Yeah. Well, you know, it is interesting that he's migrated now from Chicago over to Atlanta. He's now a backup, but he's still in the NFL. You know, there's something to be said for that. Tyquan Graham is a defensive end they really like. They drafted Arnold Ebiketie, who we had thought possibly would be a good fit in Seattle's defense. We went in a different direction with Boye Mafe, but that was certainly a possibility. And then, of course, Grady Jarrett's one of the best defensive tackles, not named Aaron Donald, in the NFL, and really has good games against Seattle. That's a guy that I think I'm watching only because our interior offensive line play has been so poor. And when you take a look at the undersized Austin Blythe at center, that's a matchup, if they can get it, would be an advantage clearly to the Falcons.
Yeah, give you that.
And then their linebacker crew, Mikael Walker, is really coming into his own, and second round pick Troy Anderson that they picked up out of Montana, we talked about a lot. I thought he was going to go a little later in the draft, but he had so much upside athletically at 4.42 40 speed. He's playing about 8 to 10 snaps on defense for them, but he's playing about 20 snaps on special teams for him, and had a blocked punt by Anderson that Lorenzo Carter ran back the other day. So anyway, that's their defense. I'm just saying, I think our overall rosters are comparable. But I agree that the Seahawks have more upside. I really do. And I just don't think that we've come into our own. For some reason, we're not yet performing at a level we kind of expected a little bit on the defensive side, particularly. I knew that the offense was going to be a struggle, but the defensive side, to me, I thought was going to be a little bit more stout, depending on the run. We were pretty good last year, and we added some pieces this year. And then, you know, on the back end, we thought it was going to be a little struggle on the defensive back side of the equation. And so far, they've been playing pretty decent as a defensive back group.
Yeah, they have been. They've been better than we expected, and the front's been not as good as we expected. Although they have been getting pressure on quarterbacks, and that's always a good sign. I think part of what we're running into, as far as the scheme goes, is there's a lot of, it depends on some of it isn't just the players, it's the play calls, and Seattle seems to be attacking, which is what you want them to do. But they seem to be attacking the quarterback on running plays. And that's burned them quite a few times already this season. And so I wonder if we see them dial that back a little bit and play more designed run stuffing plays in this game, given that, between Atlanta's running game and then Mariota, who's a good running quarterback, if they can slow the offense down by simply stopping the run and doing that first before you start trying to get after the quarterback.
They need to do something really good. Like the defense needs to have an identity, Keith. It's like they don't do anything really good right now. And man, if they need to sell out to stop one thing, I think it would be in this game to try to at least get right. And stop the run. And I think that's something you can carry forward out of this game, regardless of the result. Let's focus on doing something really well. And then on the offensive side too, it's the same story. It's like, what do we do well? What do we do well? We don't do anything well right now.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to be a great passing team with Geno Smith as your quarterback. So commit to the running game. Like, get your tight ends in there, play with 2 or 3 tight ends and run the football, grind out some hard yards that way, really commit to it. They have not run enough in the first 2 games. And, against Denver, they were effective running, but they didn't run enough. And against the 49ers, they weren't effective and stopped trying. And that means you're letting Geno Smith be your offense. And that's just not gonna, that's not gonna cut it. You're not,
he's not good enough. It doesn't seem like it's gonna cut it, but they've got to be able to take advantage of what they do well. And what they do well right now is complete passes. They complete at an 80% clip, which is crazy, which is
but for no yards.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I know that. But that is drawing defenses up. Not only are you drawing defenses up, you're not able to run the ball. Gino's got to take those shots. You've got to design 4 or 5 shots a game, even if Gino is instructed to throw it 20 yards past the receiver, whatever. He doesn't want to take any chances. That's fine. I get it. He's got to get those safeties to get, to get back so that they can face 7 players in the box instead of 8. I mean, it's just one of those things that needs to be done regardless. I don't care how they do it. It just needs to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to do it. It's one of those things. Now we're a little behind. It's like we're 1-1. If we lose this game, we're 1-2, and it gets pretty dark pretty quick.
Yeah. As you were saying earlier, like you look ahead and you start looking at the different teams that Seattle's got to play. And if you can't beat an Atlanta team that's in the middle of a rebuild with a bridge quarterback, who are you beating?
Mm-hmm. You really got to look at the roster, and some of the teams we penciled in as Seattle beating earlier are now playing better. You take a look at the Giants, you take a look at the Jets, who are a well-coached team. They're going to be competitive. You take a look at Detroit. We said, well, we're going to give Seattle that win because, well, we need to give them a win on the schedule. But when you really take a look at Detroit, Detroit's playing well. Jared Goff's actually playing well, and they play hard for Campbell. I can't say that about the Seahawks right now. They're not after last week. Hard.
No, they didn't against San Francisco. They weren't prepared. They weren't prepared, and they weren't prepared physically, and they weren't necessarily prepared mentally to go out and play a football game. They just looked lost and at times disinterested. And that's not good. Dan Campbell's done a great job in Detroit, and he's got those guys playing well. I think that I don't know if it's sustainable with that roster, and especially with Goff at quarterback. But
fair.
But at the same time, at least they're doing it. Seattle had one half. Detroit's faked it for 2 games.
So let's do this. Let's focus on what we want to see out of Seattle in this game, regardless of opponent. What are you looking for on the offensive side of the ball that's going to tell you that things are different? We're heading in the right direction.
Run the damn ball. Commit to it. Give it to Penny. Give it to Walker. Run the ball. Run people over. Grind out first downs that way. You do that. You commit to the run, and you have a shot. If they go out and start trying to throw the ball a bunch and have all these bubble screens and completed passes for 2 yards, then honestly, I don't see Seattle winning, ever. You've got to be better than that. And, completing 80% of your passes is great, but not at 4.8 yards per attempt.
What are you seeing in the trenches on the offensive side of the ball that gives you any hope that Seattle's going to be successful running the ball? Or do we need a change possibly?
I think it's mixed. Because you'll see plays where, Abe Lucas just drives his guy back, 8 yards into the backfield before pancaking him into the ground. And then the next play, you'll see, somebody just whiff on a block, and there's, a defensive tackle there, trying to take the ball from Penny before he even gets
Rashad Penny is last in the league in yards per attempt without being touched, which means he's touched the most frequently, for behind the line of scrimmage in the NFL.
Yeah. And that was one of those things that, when Seattle was great at running the ball, but back when Marshawn was here, he led the league in yards per attempt, yards after contact per attempt. And if you look the last 6 games last year when Penny was running hard and doing well, he was also up there. He was running through guys. You know,
and they're also doing that this year. I think the both backs are top 10 in that category, but they're also getting hit before they even get a chance to get out of the backfield quite frequently. And
so the offensive line just isn't working together, and I think that's a lot of it. They need to commit more to it. They need to let these guys, you know, get in there and do their thing. There's talent there. You know that that Lewis and Haynes can run block. You know that Abe Lucas can run block. We didn't expect him to be this good at run blocking this early, but go watch any tape. You know he's going to be good at it. Get Jake Curran in there. I was going
to ask you about that. In addition to our conversation about that in our last show, I've heard just tons of chatter on the radio, Corbin Smith, etc., that Gabe Jackson is just not cutting it, and people are kind of talking about the opportunity that Jake Curran might have at right guard.
It's weird because Gabe Jackson was the best offensive lineman on the roster last year, but he has not played well this year. Those first 2 games have not been good.
And he came back from some sort of knee procedure or something in the offseason, and who knows, maybe he didn't get fully back on the rehab or whatever. Who knows? I don't know, but it doesn't look good. I'd like to see Jake Curran out there. I mean, he's a road grader, and if we're going to focus on running the ball, Keith, and we're going to do it 25 times a game no matter what, let's get a guy out there that does it really well.
Well, and that's one of the things that, you know, we talked about, like, get your best 5 guys out there. And if you've got if that means getting Curran and at right guard, if that means letting Haynes or Lewis be your center, you know, in order to get the best 5 guys on the field, get the best 5 guys on the field, and let them do their thing, because you've got to be able to run the football if you're going to do anything. Because Gino's not beating anybody. Sorry, he's not that kind of guy. You've got to be able to run the football. So get your run blockers out there. Go run some people over. And Curran is a fantastic run blocker. And so, yeah, get him out there. See what happens.
How do you feel about the use of our tight ends to help Gino out? I mean, you know, it seems logical to me that they would be heavily involved in the passing game, considering the short throws that Gino's had. But so far, they've just kind of been marginally involved. Of course, we haven't been able to sustain any drives. I don't think we've seen the offense open up at all. We've only had 2 drives that resulting in touchdowns so far this year. Everything else has been punt, punt, punt.
Both of those touchdowns were caught by tight ends.
True. And that's kind of where I'm leading. It's like that seems like the natural opportunity for Gino to take advantage and incorporate those things in Shane Waldron and so forth. But I don't know. It's so anemic. It's really hard to kind of ask your tight end group to be any more involved right now. Nobody's getting involved. How about on the other side, Keith? What do you expect? What do you think that we need to see out of the defense in order to keep us in this game? Or create some turnovers?
I would say start stopping the run, because that's what Atlanta wants to do. They want to get Patterson going. He is a weapon. With all that speed. I mean, been one of the great kick returners in the game for the last few years, and teams have been trying to use him as a wide receiver. That's what he was drafted as, but he's not a wide receiver. And he does well when they give him the ball out of the backfield running. He's very Deebo Samuel-like in terms of his ability to just get to places with speed and make guys miss and all that stuff. So they're going to want to get Patterson going. That's their bread and butter. And if you're Seattle, stop that. Get your guys up to the line of scrimmage, be physical, make tackles, no more broken tackles. Stop the run. Make Marcus Mariota beat you throwing the football, because I don't know if he can.
Well, I think he's prone to mistakes. I think if Seattle can force the run to be stopped, we have a great opportunity to create some turnovers, I think, in this game.
Yeah, but the guy's got to catch him, because like Diggs has had 2 interceptions hit him in the hands and that weren't caught.
Well, they're working on it. I mean, those guys hate that, just as much as we hate talking about it. Those guys hate dropping passes like that are right in their bread baskets. You got to catch those. How about linebacker play?
That side should tell you what you need to know. Seattle's got some really talented linebackers that aren't playing real well. We need better from Darrell Taylor. The guy's got all the physical gifts, and he's good at going forward and getting after the quarterback. But what he hasn't done well this year is set an edge and force running plays back into the middle, and that kind of stuff. He hasn't been good, except for when he's asked to go get after a quarterback. Anything else they ask him to do, he hasn't been good at. And he needs to be more than just a situational pass rusher. And then you look and the middle linebackers, like they're 2nd and 5th in the league in total tackles. Seattle's 2 inside linebackers. So they're making tackles, but they need to get off blocks and make those tackles, after 2 yards, not after.
I've heard Corbin Smith had a stat that he shared that said that out of Brooks's 20 some odd tackles, only 4 have come inside 5 yards past the line of scrimmage.
Yeah,
that's tough. That's a tough stat for a guy that you're expecting to blow up plays near the line of scrimmage and so forth. We need a little bit better play there. I wanted to ask you before we get out of here on 2 matchups. Kyle Pitts against whoever he's going to go up against. He's a matchup nightmare for people. I want to kind of see what you think he's going to be matched up against, and then Drake London against Tariq Woolen.
Okay, Drake London and Tariq Woolen is like going to be fun because these are 2 guys that are big, strong, physical players. Woolen's got London on speed, but London's got Woolen on experience and agility, but they're both big guys. Neither one of them. I mean, they're
London
both tall
6'5",
for their position.
220.
Yeah, these are big guys, and I think we're in for a special matchup. I just hope that Woolen doesn't get too handsy and give up a bunch of pass interference plays.
I don't mind if he gets handsy early. I think that if he wants to establish some physicality, I'm okay with that. But if he gets called and he just is real physical, I'm okay with that. Just at the end of the game, second half, when the game's on the line, you don't want to do that.
Yeah, so he can set the tone. Like on defense, I like aggressive penalties. You know what I mean? Like those kind of plays.
We don't have that right now, Keith.
Yeah.
It's like we just don't have that physicality identity on defense, man. And Woolen's got the opportunity, I think, out of anybody, really.
Yep. And then you mentioned Pitts. I think that's going to fall on Josh Jones more than anybody, and he needs to play well. That's going to be a tough matchup. I also think that it's going to fall on Cody Barton, and Cody Barton is.
I was thinking of Ryan Neal too.
Actually, yeah, Ryan Neal will get some run with that. Cody Barton he's good in coverage. It's like one of the things he does well is he covers, but he is not fast enough to keep up with Pitts. Pitts is going to run away from him. So they better have a plan for that because otherwise it's going to be a lot of deep passes to Pitts.
All right. Prediction time, Keith. I'm going to make you go first this time.
I still think Seattle's the better team overall. I think they have the better roster. So I'm going with Seattle, but I'm not super confident on it, and I'm not picking a high score. I'm going to say 20-17 Seattle.
Interesting. Okay. I'm going to go in a different direction and kind of the same. So Atlanta has scored 26 and 27 points against some pretty good teams. I think Seattle's not as good of a defense as the Rams or the Saints. And I think Atlanta is going to score some points. And And I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I think Seattle's going to end up breaking out in this game. And I think they're going to end up scoring some points. The run game kind of gets going. Gino throws the ball up, and Metcalf comes down with it a couple times in the end zone. And maybe one of our tight ends gets involved again and scores a touchdown. So I'm going to say 27-23 Seahawks. It's a home game. We need this game. This is a must-win game as far as I'm concerned. If you're a Seahawks fan and the team, you got to be able to come out and protect your home field. And if you don't want the season to be over before it starts, you got to win this game, because if this doesn't happen, you've got to go out on the road at a 10 a.m. game against the Lions, against a really difficult opponent that's going to play hard. And after that, it gets even harder. And so they could go 5, 6, 7 weeks before they could be in the win column if they don't win this game. And it might turn out that way anyway. They could win this game and then go 0-5 in the next 5. But
yeah, I mean, if they lose this game against a beatable team, you're gonna be looking forward and seeing this is a team that's gonna be what, 1-7,
and it just tells you. I think if you lose against the Falcons, they're on the road. They've been out away from Atlanta. They played the Rams. They didn't travel back. They're on the West Coast. They've been out here for a while. If you lose against this team that's in the same rebuild mode that you're in, and they're projected to be, almost everyone has them as the bottom, 30, 31, 32nd team in the league. You lose against this team at home and you look bad, it's going to be a long season. It just is. You'd be lucky to win four games total, I think, if you lose this game.
Yeah. It's a winnable game. Go win it.
It's a winnable game. Go win it. Yeah, go win it. It's right there. It's right there. Gino should, if he has a decent game, but our run game is effective, and our we tackle well and we play good defense and we generate a turnover, this game is winnable. And but man, they got to go want it. They've got to want it.
Yep.
All right, we're out of here.
Let's do it.
Enjoy the game, Keith. No matter what happens, you can find Keith on Twitter at Myers NFL. You can find me at NW Seahawk. You know where the show's at, but make sure you subscribe and share it to your friends if you like it. So until next time, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Seahawks Playbook podcast listeners, thanks for joining us for another edition of the show. You can find us on Twitter. Bill is at NW Seahawk, Keith is at Myers NFL, and the show is at Hawks Playbook. You can listen and subscribe to the show at SeahawksPlaybook.com.